Right, so now I'm going to talk to you about spinning a 2-ply from a single thread, and quite often when you've got a little bit left over on the end of a bobbin, rather than spin another singles to go with it, you can take it off and just spin it back on itself. So this is just some leftover yarn, and what I'm going to do is take it off using my hand. Now some people think of this as Peruvian plying or Andean plying, and basically the method that most people use, it wraps the yarn around your hand and it goes around in a sort of crossover around your finger. If you're using a fibre that's not very stretchy, you can end up with your finger being trapped in the middle. So I just use this method, which I find a lot easier. So I'm going to start off just by sticking this end onto the palm of my hand, just so that it's out of the way, and then I take it around the base of my thumb and use that as an anchor point through between my first and second finger, and then back round again. Just take a little bit of tension off the wheel so it's not pulling too hard. You can see it wraps around the back of my hand there and across and anchored under the joint of my thumb. This method works very well for mid to thicker range yarns. It's not terribly good for very fine, highly twisted yarns. You get too much wrinkling back on itself and you can end up just with a big bird's nest. I wouldn't use it either for doing a huge amount of wool, but for leftover small amounts it's ideal. You can see this is quite a quick and easy way of taking this off onto your hand. I find it's a lot faster than the Peruvian method, and you get the same result at the end. The only difference is you have to use your hand slightly differently as you ply it back, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. So that's the yarn finished. So there's the end that I had stuck to my hand, and there's the end from the outside. So we'll just free that up. I'm just going to put my hand into the middle of this little bracelet that I've formed. Let go of that end there. So now you can see we've got these two ends, and the yarn is a little bracelet around my wrist. So I'll just thread this wheel back up. I'm just going to tie these two ends onto the end of that leader, and then adjust the tension a little bit. Okay, so the way I use my hand with this, it goes up and down in between the two yarns that are coming off, the inside and the outside of this little bracelet, using the same method as I have before to tension this yarn, making sure that I put the right amount of ply and twist in to balance the singles. So you can see it goes up and down and up and down, and all the time my left hand's keeping the tension on the yarn between the orifice and where my hand stops at the back. Again, I only let enough yarn off my wrist bracelet to be able to ply a comfortable length of yarn. So I'm just going to alter the the drive band onto a faster faster wall, so that I can really motor on through this now. I'm just going to stop here and I'll finish this off camera. Right, so I finished all of that one, and now we're going to have a look at plying off ball winder. So I've taken the yarn off the bobbin prior, and I've now got an outside thread and an inside thread. Now when I take this off here, because this yarn is being quite freshly spun, it's going to have lots of twist in it. So I'm going to actually keep my finger or a thumb up inside this tube of wool. Okay. So here we have a centre pull bowl, which means that you've got, as it says, a pull of yarn from the centre and one from the outside. So I'm going to take the leftover end of what I've just plied from my hand, loop that through and get the wheel going again. Okay. So again, I'm using the same method as I have done before for balancing. This time the yarn's coming off this little ball. Again, I'm keeping the tension on the two threads, sliding my front hand back to the back hand, guiding the twist in, checking for balance. I've still got my thumb inside this little ball, just so that it doesn't collapse completely inside. The main thing about doing this kind of ply, when you've got your thumb up the middle of the bowl or when you've got it on your wrist, you want to know that you can actually complete all of your plying. You don't want to have to get up and leave it part way through. I'm just getting down to the last little dregs now. You find sometimes that if you have got very fine yarn and it's got a lot of twist, you end up losing the last little bit of it because it just ties up on itself. But it's better than having your bobbins all out of commission with leftover bits and pieces on them. So I've just lost that little bit there. So there we've got a 2 ply from a singles.